Hear ye, hear ye.
Okay, what's being changed? Very simple. You just have to do
That means you,
the sound and stuff like that, because...
all right, real property, environmental concerns committee meeting. Come to order. We have a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting. Yeah, audience second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any changes? Might as well ask that as long as we're... Nope. All right, Lexi?
Okay. The first action is to amend a prior resolution from 2014, which is resolution number 378. I've included in your packets the terms and conditions of sale for our auction, as well as the purchase offer memorandum. We periodically update these, and especially this year because we changed auctioneers, so their buyer premium is changed from 7% to 6%. In your packets, the stuff that's in bold is anything that was changed. So, you know, the year of 2017 is in there. There was one typo. And then down in paragraph 6, or number 6, we added a subsection E, which was to add for unpaid sewer charges. Not sure why it wasn't ever in there, because we have the unpaid water charges. So the people are responsible for that. So we added in there the E, which says any sewer charges unpaid or payable to the municipality in which the premises are situated, which have not been re-levied in the last town and county tax levy. So other than the dates, that is the major change right there. I mean, the dates and the percent are minor. And then on the purchase offer memorandum, it was a date change, and again, the buyer's premium, which is about 3/4 of the way down on the left-hand side, to 6%. So we just need to amend that prior resolution to include the changes to the terms.
Do we have a motion? Right. Second by John. Any questions or any? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Okay. Anything else, Lexi?
Not under that. Further down, just wanted to discuss with you, back in, we posted, in April, there was a petition sent out to everybody whose property is in the foreclosure. And in June, we went out and posted 38 properties throughout the county that were not answered. So I just also wanted to let you guys know that as of the 22nd at 4 o'clock, we still had 219 properties or parcels in the foreclosure at this time. So they all have until July 14th to either pay or bring themselves current if they're in an installment agreement. This becomes the next couple of weeks become pretty busy for the treasurer's office, because that's where they're all going to pay. I also wanted to mention, while out doing these postings, we stopped at a couple of the pieces of properties that were possible contaminated, one of them being the property in Chestertown. We looked at it. I mean, there's concrete flooring, or basically the footprint of where the building was is still there, but that's it. There's nothing on the property. There is, though, a floor drain that's there, which would cause some concern. Back in 2012, the town went in and did cleanup of the property, and they tagged $42,864.20 to the tax bill for the cleanup. So that is included in that. And I think that I thought I had a figure, but I may be wrong. Yeah, since 09, or when the taxes are out there, and currently it's $78,463.19 in outstanding taxes on that property. However, my recommendation would be to do a phase 1 on that, possibly a phase 2, and it may have to also have a site characterization, but the concern would be, where does that floor drain go? And it used to be a car dealership, so I don't know what used to go down that drain. So, you know, we may want to, instead of taking title, go ahead and ask the county attorney's office to do the temporary incidents of ownership, to be able to have those inspections done. Yes, no?
Yeah, Craig?
Mhm.
So this would be similar to what we did in Johnsburg?
Yep, we start with a phase 1, and then we see what that determines, and then possibly move forward with a phase 2, and then a site characterization after that. So, but we can't do anything until we get the temporary incidents of ownership.
And we wouldn't want to do anything until we had at least phase 1 done.
Well, we have to get the temporary incidents of ownership to do the phase 1, and then the phase 1 will tell us where we should really go from there.
Well, otherwise it'd be just foreclosed today.
If there wasn't a possibility of contamination. Mhm.
I'll make a motion.
I do have one question though.
Okay.
Do I need a resolution for him to be able to do the temporary incidents of ownership? I don't know if I...
That would be my preference, because the chairman's going to want to sign the affidavit to support the motion.
All right. What is the motion exactly, just to get a...
The motion's to pursue a temporary...
Incidents of ownership.
Ownership for, is that called the Thermal Home property, or the...
That's the last owner, was Thermo Home, Inc. Mhm.
Do we need the phase 1 included in that, or in the motion?
Well, we have to wait, I think, until that happens, and then at that time, then we can move
All right.
forward to do a temporary, to do the phase 1, but in between, we'd also have to
Right.
move money
Okay.
from the reserve testing fund.
Okay, Craig, well, yeah. Claudia?
Before I second the motion, I just want to know if there are any other properties that we could roll into the same motion, if there's other...
For the
contamin-
temporary incidents of ownership, no. There was another one we looked at in Johnsburg, that was the old Denton property, but that one, I reached out to the town, and of course I didn't bring all their notes. They had done extensive cleanup there as well, went in and removed everything away, and it's just a vacant piece of land now. I reached out to the prior assessor, who was the assessor at the time, spoke with her the lot. So that one I feel is good, and I feel it should, just go into, or continue in. I believe it's already in this year. I'd have to double check, and if not, put it in to go for the foreclosure.
Okay. Yeah, John?
Is phase 1 going to get to the bottom of our problem here? We want to know if that floor drain, or what's underneath it, or where it goes, is contaminated. A lot of times phase 1 does a cursory search and
Correct, but
won't
we
get
have-
to. You'll have to do a phase 2 to get to this.
Right, but we have to start with phase 1, and then we go from there with the recommendation to move forward. We've always done a phase 1, and then it goes to phase 2, and then more than likely it's going to have to be a site characterization, because they're going to have to probably bore to see where it goes to.
And what's the location of this property? I didn't catch it.
It's in the town of Chester,
Oh,
and it's on Pine Street, 10 Pine Street. And another little update, the Queensberry Mullins property, we've never heard back from Mr. Callahan on the, he was the last man that was interested. So, I guess I need to talk to Brian and see where that one still stands. I don't think we ever closed out the temporary incidents of ownership on that. I don't know if you would know that, you probably have to pull the file. But I think where with that one we need to go is do the site characterization, because DEC, after they reviewed everything, they had recommended that we have some groundwater samplings done. When they looked at everything, the phase 1 and the phase 2, they really didn't feel that the site was that bad. So that was their recommendation, was groundwater sampling. So that would be under site characterizations. So Brian will have to pull the records and we can review to make sure that we do still have that temporary incidence. I don't believe it was ever closed.
All right, so you'll follow up on that then?
I will.
Okay.
And also in the same field of this contaminated stuff, I spoke with Julie Butler, our purchasing agent, and asked her about an RFP to be able to maybe get an environmental company in here that we could maybe contract with, use them and not have to keep going out for another RFP, be able to have them like on contract for a year with 2 one-year extensions. So that is something that she is reviewing right now, and she said she would get back to me when she knew more on that, because we will have to obviously put it out for an RFP to get somebody, so whether it be that we put it out as a contract thing to be able to use them longer term than to just a one-time use every time that we have to have one of these properties looked at.
On the Chester property, Kevin suggested that maybe we get the Phase 2 approved, Phase 1, Phase 2, that way we can get right to the...
Needed.
If needed.
Phase 2?
You want to amend your...
I'll amend to include Phase 1 and Phase 2 if needed.
Audio?
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Not any... Ron?
Just a question, is there one environmental group that we've been using, even though you've gone out for
The last couple that we did use Ecosystems, and we were very happy with them and their results. They did the Johnsburg property as well as the Warrensburg property.
so we might have a handle on one that we might be contacting?
So we don't need an RFP on that, do we, or do we?
Not at this time. I gotta wait until Julie, to see what Julie comes up with, if that's possible.
Okay.
It sounded good in the beginning when we started talking about it, and then when she looked into it a little further, she called me back on Friday and said it's not 100% doable, so she was going to review some of it with Kevin Hajos from DPW.
You don't need anything from us, do you?
Not
No.
at this point. I have to wait.
Okay. Anything else?
I don't have anything else. Does anybody have any other questions?
Yeah, Ron?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just on the purchase offer memorandum form, that quickly, I want to walk through this a little bit, if I could, so I understand it.
Sure.
Let's use $1,000.
Okay.
So item A would be, I've purchased this, I was a successful bidder, let's say, for the sum of $1,000, correct? On A?
I'm confused where A is. What?
A, down below, it says little a, little d, little c, on purchase offer memorandum.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're on the purchase offer memorandum. Okay, so yes, for the sum of,
Let's say $1,000.
okay,
Okay, and then I have a 10% deposit, let's say $100, correct?
well, can I interrupt you?
Yep.
Any purchase of $1,000 or less, they have to pay it all the day of the auction. Anything over $1,000, then you would get into the 10% deposit and buyer's
I
premium.
strained my multiplication here a little bit, but now let's say for the sum of $100,000,
Sure.
we have a 10% deposit of $10,000, correct?
Yes,
Okay, and then there's a 6% buyer's premium, which would be $6,000, correct?
correct.
Okay. This is down payment of, or total due at auction. That would be B and C?
Yes,
Okay, so that would be B and C. If it is, it might be helpful just to put B plus C. But then the balance due is the bid, which would be A, correct, minus line B, which would be the deposit. So the buyer's premium is in addition to. It's in addition to. It's like in an auction.
correct. It's a totally separate figure. It's what pays the auctioneer.
That's what pays the auctioneer. So basically, down payment or total due at auction is,
The balance.
well, the balance is where it says balance. the down payment for total due at auction, at the time of the auction.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So that's what that means. So at the time of the auction, what you're required to have is B and C.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Actually, you know what, I am going to mention one other thing. I just wanted to put out to all of you that I've also been working with the defaulted installment agreement people. I know we had talked about this at a prior committee meeting. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, what's this? 7, 8, 9 pages of properties that I've been working with, that of people that have gone into installment agreements and have defaulted. I've reached out to them by phone. I've reached out to the sheriff's office and got any possible numbers that I may have that were no longer listed to see if they had anything different. They had some they didn't. I've even gone online and done a little research to try to find people that way and see if I could get a hold of someone. I have extensive notes here of people that I've talked to and people that I haven't spoke to and left messages for. I've also have people that have actually paid since. So I have been working on that. I also did another spreadsheet with people from last year's last chance meeting, the people that we granted extensions until the end of the year. I have reached out to some of them and had some extensive conversations trying to help them, trying to move them, keep moving them along towards the progress of possibly paying. So not as good of luck with the people that got the extension as with the defaulted installs. It's been a little bit better reaching out to them. A couple of the people from the extensions have since, one went into an installment agreement and another one, she's paid off her properties. And there's ongoing issues with most of the others that we gave the extensions to. So I just wanted to give you an update on that. I do feel like I've progressed quite a bit with the people in the defaulted installment agreements, so that's a plus. You know, I've put them back in touch with the treasurer's office. Some people are like, well, I lost my agreement, I didn't really know what I needed to pay, and so, you know, it gets them back in contact and lets them know not to be afraid to call, that we're there to help. So I just wanted to update you on that.
Kevin?
Yeah, Lexi, now, the ones who, the first one you said, they have defaulted on their payments?
The defaulted installment agreements, they defaulted on their payments.
So has that gone by? Because we don't want to be the last to find out. We've got another $150,000 we're owed that didn't get acted upon. Is that something you can send out to us?
Of the spreadsheet that I have?
Well, yeah, just, is it people that had a due date and they strictly are not going to meet it, or is it ones that have approached the treasurer to try to refinance, or what is this?
Do they go into the auction?
Well, what's happened is these people had outstanding taxes. They either come to the last chance meeting or they just reached out to us. We allowed them to go into an installment agreement through the treasurer's office, which is set up where you put the 25% down and then the rest is spread out over 2 years of payment.
2 years.
It's 2 years.
So really...
So they could have made their initial down payment and then didn't pay December's payment or March's payment, and that, if they didn't pay December, then they're in default and it kicks them back in. So it could be people that just maybe need to catch up, or it could be people that have gone past their last payment date and they need to come in and pay that balance to us. And if they don't, what happens is they're back in the foreclosure, and if they don't pay off their payments,
Perhaps you should send that out to committee members so they can at least, maybe there's somebody on there, somebody will know somebody they can go talk to.
Sure, I can definitely do that. I'll get it in the email out to you guys right after the meeting.
And what's the other one? The other one is people...
The other one is-
Who are given time that... So now, do they go in default, Mike? If
They're already.
They're in the foreclosure.
These are people that were in last year's foreclosure, okay, but it
They came to
didn't
last
make it
chance.
that far. They came to the last chance meeting. Our committee at Last
Yeah.
Chance gave them an extension until December 30th, 31st. A lot of them couldn't pay by then, so it basically gave them this whole year, and they have until July 14th, like everybody else that's
and
in,
then they go...
to pay, otherwise they're back in. But I can send this, they're both in an Excel spreadsheet, and they're in tab 1 and tab 2 in the bottom.
Yeah, there may be somebody we can reach out to say...
No, definitely, that would be great.
Realize this.
Oh,
Yeah, Peter?
Waving. When is the last chance meeting, the date?
I don't have a calendar right in front of me. It's right in the beginning of August, the first Monday, I believe, in August.
Are your taxes paid up, Peter?
I don't know.
He's in the city of Glens Falls, so they're
Oh, that's
handled a
right. I
little
was just-
differently. They handle their own.
I forgot.
I think they are, actually.
Is it the 7? 7?
Oh, goody.
Oh, you do?
I'll double check. I do too, actually. On our calendar.
Okay,
I'll double check.
okay.
Any other questions? Any other things? Yeah, Craig?
Lexi, you had a position you were calling?
Yes. It's not as of yet. They did the test, and the girl in my office is looking to promote up. So it's a matter of, do we promote and then wait to see what the results are? Because then I'd have to backfill the position behind. So it's kind of a double-edged sword there. If I promote her up, I mean, she's got to score in the top 3, which I don't think will be a problem, and then it's a matter of advertising to backfill the second position, which I believe at last month's committee, you guys gave me the permission to do. So, okay?
I had a question. So, these properties go through the last chance, and say there's one that somebody doesn't bid on, and it's,
Auction, are we talking? Or last chance?
last chance, I'm sorry. Yeah, last
They
chance.
won't bid at the
And then they
last
go
chance.
to the, I meant the law,
Okay.
the auction. And it isn't purchased through a bid, which I guess most of them do, but some of them probably potentially couldn't. Who does the cleanup if it's, I have to see it later to see if this property's on there. I think it is.
What do you
and,
mean cleanup?
Well, if it's just,
We don't want it if it's...
I know,
You
what
don't
happened...
take it if it's contaminated.
Well, it may not be contaminated with anything, any oil or petroleum, but what if it's just like full of garbage and, you know, piles of, okay, household garbage? That's what I'm asking. Is there, who does, say the guy
You
loses...
need to
the-
tell Lexi what
Well, that's what I'm
property
gonna,
we're talking about.
well, I will, but
Yeah.
not here.
Yeah.
We don't clean them up. I mean, if it's just garbage around and it's an old house that's half fallen down, no, we don't do anything with that. We run it to the auction.
We ran one through last year that had all kinds of junk and garbage piled around.
Kevin?
Part of the
But
deal.
you could have, the town of Horton could have a property maintenance code where you could go in and levy it on the person's taxes.
Right.
Well, that's where, we may not have enough time to do that.
I was gonna say, if it's in this year's foreclosure, you wouldn't be able to do that.
But I'm just saying, I mean, we put that in place, I think most
Yeah, that's
towns have
something-
it, where you give them chances, and then if they don't cut the grass or clean
Yeah, we
up,
won't know
then you
for a
go in and
couple
do
of
it for them and put it on the bill.
Yeah, we do that in the
Okay.
city.
Okay, you do it on the city. Huh?
I'll talk to
Can I talk with
Lexi
me
after.
after?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ron?
Chairman, Lexi, were you planning on sending out a letter to those that are delinquent in their last chance agreements, indicating to them that some of them, I think, one of the issues we had is they're rolling over from year to year to year on the last chance side, which is now, my understanding is, no longer allowed. Are you going to send out some kind of communication to them, or have you communicated with them?
Well-
Are there people that might be under the impression that they're going to come in, that they're even going to be allowed to come into the last chance meeting when in fact they're not even going to be allowed to present because they already had an agreement or it's all done?
Are you talking about people that were at last year's last chance meeting? Because those...
Or any prior, but let's say you can use last year.
See, I have no idea until usually after the 14th of July, because that's the last day to redeem. We don't know who's going to come in prior to that, but after that and before the last chance meeting, we go out and we actually post foreclosure notices on the property, which when we do that, it actually prompts a lot of the phone calls for that last chance meeting. But I have no way of knowing who's going to be in for the last chance meeting.
Don't you know who is presently in delinquent?
Lexi's already talked to everybody who was granted an extension at last year's meeting.
Okay.
Mhm.
Verbally, you...
Yes.
Yeah, that's part of my list here. I've reached out to those people that were given any type of extensions. So we have those, and
They're
I've,
very clear on the fact that...
yeah.
Okay,
Okay, good.
all set? All right, Claudia?
Everyone's done with Lexi grilling it. Okay, I asked Dave Wick to come and give us a presentation about the Lake George Park Commission's efforts for invasive species removal, and also Wayne from the planning department come and give us an overview of what the county contracts are right now to do that. So I'm going to ask Dave to come up first. So if you want to go, you can after you're finished. Thank you, Dave.
Thanks, Claudia. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Go on.
So I have about 20 slides, 15 minutes. We'll get you through it very quickly. Some of the stuff is going to be things that you've seen in the past. A couple things might be new, but please feel free to ask any questions at any time. This is just for your information. So I always start with a nice pretty slide of Lake George. So I always like this slide. This kind of gives people that don't know Lake George very well just a general idea of the depths, kind of a cool slide overall of the lake. It acts very differently in different basins, and that comes into play in water quality issues. So I'm going to start real quickly with invasive species. You guys have seen this slide before. We still have 5 invasive species in Lake George. Right now we're only really actively managing one of those, and that's Eurasian water milfoil, and we're going after it pretty aggressively. I'll talk about Asian clam in a minute. The nice thing about spiny water flea, we were in here, I don't know, maybe 4 years ago. A spiny water flea had just exploded in Lake George. And the problem is they are something that all the fish like to eat, and there's no nutritional value, and there's barbs all over them. And so basically it will starve the fish from the inside out, and it destroyed the fishery in Lake Huron. It just devastated it. It was a $1 billion fishery. We're concerned about that. There's other lakes where it really didn't do much at all. And so the scientists that study this thing every day really can't figure out exactly what the different factors are. The good thing about Lake George is we had a population explosion 2 years ago. It was everywhere. It was on everybody's fishing line. We're like, oh, this is going to be bad. This year, they're struggling to find it. Or actually, at the end of last year, you sample for it in August. They cannot explain the population decline. Maybe they got so overpopulated they simply crashed. But that's good news. So now they're actually struggling to find it in Lake George. So this may be a boom and bust cycle where it's really not going to impact the commercial fishery that we have in Lake George, and that has always been the primary concern, so that's good news. We're at about $8 million to date for managing invasive species in Lake George. The brunt of that has come from the state of New York through the Environmental Protection Fund, but there's been a lot of outside dollars that have come in as well. Warren County continues to be probably our biggest contributor to invasive species prevention efforts on Lake George. We'll talk about that. If this works. There we go. Quickly on Eurasian water milfoil, this is the one that we continue to put a lot of resources and a lot of time into. First came into Lake George in 1985, it's been managed since 1986. The problem was that early in the years, there wasn't a lot of money to put towards it, and it just continued to grow and spread into the massive populations that we saw in the mid-2000s, where many people were saying it's simply beyond us. What do we do? And so we didn't really take it kind of as the defeat, so the Park Commission, working with Lake George Association, a number of other folks, started putting some more real resources into it, and we started seeing the declines that we're looking for. In the last 3 years, the state of New York has been very good to the Lake George Park Commission in terms of money coming in from the Environmental Protection Fund, and put forth a significant amount of money to the tune of $200,000 to $300,000 to $400,000 depending on the year, and that has really made a considerable difference in a lot of the areas that we're looking at. Supervisor Stroud has 3 of the most effective bays in Lake George: Warner Bay, Dunham's Bay, and Harris Bay. And those 3 bays 5 years ago are vastly different than what they are today. So we got our milfoil report this morning on Dunham's Bay. They're simply looking for the plant now. And Dunham's Bay, back in the mid-2000s, they kind of gave up on. Harris Bay started exploding. We spent 3 years blasting back Harris Bay. Harris Bay now is getting much more under control. A few bays that we haven't hit in a while, Gull Bay up in the northeast part of the lake, we put that kind of the line in the sand. Hadn't been managed in about 10 years. Massive dense beds out there, but it's kind of disconnected from Lake George. So tell you what, let's find out if our system works, right? We have these dive guys, we have 4 guys in the water, 2 topside, and it's picking dandelions out there, and you have to do it right. You can't fragment it, you have to get the root. It is not easy work, but these guys are good. And we swim with them, we watch them, we see what they're doing. Last year, they hit 100% of the 2 massive dense patches in Gull Bay. Went back this year, there was an 80% reduction in population. They got every plant out that they can. We're going to go back later in the summer to find out if we can prove that if we have enough of a concerted effort to do this, Gull Bay will be that line in the sand to say, listen, we can take this model and go lake-wide with it. And I've said several times, if milfoil gets past this in Lake George, there simply won't be any way to get it back, because we cannot chemically treat Lake George, number 1. That permit got denied by the EPA back in 2001. And 2, it's a 32-mile-long lake. Just the resources you need to chemically treat that, which is also a public water body supply. The only option that we have right now is the management techniques that we're using. So we're on that cusp. We can either continue and do it right and keep the numbers going down, or we can say, you know, we funded this long enough, let's move on to the next issue. And it's my job to try to convince folks like you that this is not the time that we want to step back. We're hoping that through Wayne has been tremendous. He has stepped up and said, listen, I will manage this Department of State grant. Nobody wants to touch DOS grants now. Wayne lives and breathes this stuff. He says, listen, the county will do this if I can get support from the supervisors, but I think you guys have empowered him to do so. The resources that are in that Department of State grant will make or break this year's program. It's $200,000. We're hoping that those funds are going to come in, because right now we only have $250,000. Last year we had $460,000. If we can't hit what we did even last year, we're going to struggle. We're going to slide back a lot of what we had. So I thank Wayne so much, and you guys, for the support of trying to get these dollars in, and it seems like we're going to get them, which is great. Asian clams. Asian clams is something we put a huge amount of effort, resources into, because this is an exploding population. We learned a lot from Lake Tahoe. It is a huge amount of work. Just a few pictures of some of the work that happened from 2012 to 2015. We had tremendous success, so if you consider if my son gets a 99 in college, I'm thrilled. We had 99% success rates in these things. 1% is like getting 99% of cancer. It comes back. So we were anywhere between 96 and 99%. All of those areas that we were between 96 and 99% have come back. Have they come back as robustly as they have in the past? No, they have not. The nice thing is we had 2 very hard winters, and these things are warm water species. So not this past winter, but the 2 previous, they were pretty wicked. It was wicked winter, so the numbers got knocked back between 90 and 95%, which is great. If we can keep relying on Mother Nature to keep these numbers down, we're not going to see the problems that they're having in Lake Tahoe, where they're shutting down their beaches, and all these multi-billion-dollar resorts aren't having people come to them anymore because the shorelines are completely covered in dead and dying shells and algae and smell and everything like that. That has always been the goal, to keep that down and never happening in Lake George. We don't have any resources to continue to administer this, so all we're doing is putting in money to Darren Freshwater Institute for Science to take a look at other ways to do this. There is a new worm that they found that burrows in and eats the juveniles out of the clams themselves. They don't even know whether it's a native or an invasive, but it has huge potential, so Darren Freshwater is on top of that. But the days of us putting in 14 acres of benthic barriers on the bottom of the lake, at least at this stage, are gone. What's out there? We've talked about this in the past. There's several things that are out there. When I first gave this presentation to you guys probably 4 years ago, these things have moved closer, whether you're talking about hydrilla or Brazilian Illadia or the bloody red shrimp or quagga mussels. They are all closer than they were back in the day. And we've had hits for quagga mussel. We have not had hits for hydrilla yet, although it has moved up closer to us. If hydrilla gets into Lake George, that is going to be the game changer in terms of people considering using chemical treatments in Lake George. It's going to be the shot heard around the world. So our inspection program, the goal of that is to keep these things out of Lake George so something like that never happens. This is what we're surrounded by. Great Lakes, 184 invasive species. Hudson River, 91. Lake Champlain, 49. We have 5. So these things are boaters are continually coming to Lake George, and we inspect every boat before it goes into the water to make sure it's clean, drained, and dry. We're in the 4th year. Hello. We're in the 4th year of our program. Let me see if I'm smart enough to figure this out. And we're back. Okay. So we're in the 4th year of our program, and it is going, from my perspective, it is like the program has been in place for 20 years. Boaters know what to expect. Most of them show up clean, drained, and dry. If they don't, no worries. We do the inspection, the full decontamination at no charge, thanks largely to the funding that is put forward by Warren County and the municipalities and nonprofits that pay half the cost of the program. Without that, the program would be dead. We simply would not have this program anymore. And since we're still finding between 150 and 200 invasive species that are coming to Lake George every year, that's a big deal. And the number of boats that are coming that aren't meeting the clean, drain, dry standard that juveniles could be on those boats is fairly staggering still. We're still seeing boats in the range of 10 to 12% that aren't meeting the standard. So, and that's great. We're very social with these folks. Say, listen, this is what we're looking for, but don't worry about it. We'll clean your boat. Go out and have a great day. We also look at the boats on the way out because we don't want to be exporting our invasive species up to Matt's Brant Lake or up to Screwen Lake or Lake Luzerne, Lake Venera, anywhere. So that's the goal is on the way out we always take a look. Hey, we're back again tonight. All right. We can keep this going here without topping out. So we do have a lot of public support. There's some things from the past, from the Post-Star, that says, yeah, I think this one over here kind of speaks volumes. Without this, we'll lose them. And we're talking about that right now with the E. coli issue in Lake George. We have received dozens of calls in my office, and we don't manage the water quality of Lake George. That is a DEC. They're the designated water quality agency for Lake George, even though everybody thinks we are. We help out where we can. We should be. I didn't say that. But they're doing everything they can. They're pulling out all stops. And the village of Lake George and the town of Lake George have been tremendous in stepping up and putting hundreds of hours into cleaning catch basins and doing everything that they need to do. But that's another conversation. So let's see if this clicks to the next slide. Perfect. The question was early on, boat registrations. We're going to drive everybody away from Lake George, right? Turns out it was kind of the opposite. We didn't. First year of the inspections, our numbers went up. Second year, they went up even higher. Last year, we had the biggest registration on Lake George since 2002. So boaters are coming to Lake George. There's no cost to them to come up. They understand the program, and we're not driving them away. Our staff cost keeps coming down every year. We get better at it. We get more efficient. If it's raining out, we don't need 3 guys. We send a guy home. So that is the model. It's working extremely well, and we track it week by week. So this is something I sent out to the quote SAVE group that pays the local half of the program. I ask Justin every week, where are we? Send me some information. The blue is this year, the green is last year. All of our numbers are less than they were last year. We're going to continue to do that. Yeah, Matt.
I just want to say we're seeing the same numbers increasing in Brant Lake and Screwen Lake also. So it shows how important this program and it's continual, that it keeps happening, continues on because the threat is out there and this is our first line defense. So I just want to say it's not just Lake George seeing the increased traffic. I think our tourism, it's water-based there. So.
Right, and it's going up.
And the annual cost, Dave,
Yes.
you predict will be what for this year?
$500,000.
So that's a lot less than 700,000.
It is. Yeah. 700,000 was the original estimate. We never even got that high. We're at about 670 for the first year, and then we got down to about 584, and we're at 500 last year.
Okay, thank you.
So other issues, I just wanted to highlight a couple other things that are going on. Of course, invasive species. We hit stormwater runoff. We're going to talk about in a second. Stream corridor as well. Highway de-icing, I just wanted to hit because this is a huge topic, and there's been no shortage of groups that have come together from the guy that works a shovel on a highway department all the way up to Supervisor Stroud, all the way up to the county, taking a look. These are the facts of the case that chlorides and salt have tripled in Lake George in 30 years, unprecedented anywhere else. And this is simply in mid-lake. If you start to take a look at the salt in our streams, 100 times the amount of salt is in the streams around developed areas as non-developed areas. Actually, Finkelbrook is 132 times higher in salt concentration than Northwest Bay Brook, about 10 miles north. That doesn't have any development in it. It's huge. Nothing can live in Finkelbrook because of the de-icing activities that are going alongside of the brook. So that's a factor. That's a concern. What are we doing? The town of Bolton says, you know what, this is important. We're going to take a look at it. We're going to look at alternative strategies. We're going to look at tracking what we use out there, storing things better than we have in the past. So they're absolutely on board with this. I can't say enough good about the towns that are working on this. Here's the facts of the case. There's 29,000 tons of sand every year that are put in Lake George watershed. 9,000 tons of salt go on the roads. The science says about half of that reaches the lake and the streams. So you're looking at 4,500 tons of salt. So put that in a 20-yard truck, right? So how many trucks you're lining truck after truck after truck, and all you're doing is dumping that into the streams in the lake. And so the assimilative capacity of Lake George is only so much before it flushes out. That's the concern. That's why we want to do a little bit better. So we're changing the game. I'm the chair of a committee trying to bring some people together to talk about this more holistically, and we're making some great progress. This comes out of a Betty Little grant that she granted way back in the day to the town of Queensbury, and this is what we went and talked to John's board about recently, saying there's $150,000, there's no local match. The money is in the bank account. DEC says, send us a bill, we will write you a check today. We want to get this off the books, and we have some great things going on. That's the village highway shed right there. It drains directly into a drop inlet, goes right into Prospect Mountain Brook, goes into the lake. We want to fix that. The top right is a new brine spreader unit, Arrowhead Equipment in the town of Queensbury. Donated that for 2 years to see how brining is going to work. We have 20 temperature sensors for the trucks to know when they should apply and when they should not apply. If the air temperature says it's 28 degrees out, but the road temperature is 40, you don't apply. Everything is based on road temperature, but the guys, if they don't have that information in the trucks, they can't do any better. So these things are all bought through the grant and through the nonprofits and regional planning board and everybody else, and putting these things on the trucks, and the highway superintendents have been fantastic. So another topic, jumping over, stormwater regulations update. So you may have read a little bit out there, the Park Commission has not had a full review of its stormwater regulations in over 20 years. We're required to, theoretically by law, to look at all of our regulations every 5 years, so we're a little overdue. And this is something that we want to take a look at just in general to say, is what we have good enough? Are we changing the game in Lake George? Are we bending that curve? And under the current status right now, it's difficult to argue that our stormwater program is doing well enough to bend the curve. Our water quality declines over the last 30 years are not insignificant. 6% decline in overall water quality, 33% decline in water clarity. That's huge. That's just in 30 years. If you take the 15,000-year geologic time frame of Lake George, we've fallen off a cliff. So are the regulations that the Commission has in place good enough? And that's a conversation that we're going to be starting very soon, and an email this afternoon to all of our supervisors out in Lake George watershed to ask them if they want to sit down with us and some of our leadership just to talk about some ideas. So Dennis and John and whoever else, we're going to be having those conversations soon. Switching over to boater safety, I can't thank Claudia Bramer enough. She and Kate Hogan started this responsible boating initiative, maybe 2 weeks ago, right? Based on the outcome of the West Trial and a number of other things that have been happening. We track everything that happens on Lake George. We have the biggest patrol on Lake George. We know every ticket, every near miss, every accident, every rental boat accident, every private boat accident. And there's trends out there, and we want to do better, and the way that you start is through education. And so that's what Claudia and Kate have put forward. Let's outreach to the marinas, let's outreach to the restaurants and taverns on Lake George, and let's get the idea out there that, you know what, when I'm heading back out onto my boat, the model right now, and it just got brought up a couple of days ago, was, hey, I'm heading out, can I get 3 to go? And the bartenders would typically say, sure. And here's your 3 cocktails, and off you go. And that's just the way of Lake George business. So we're trying to change that mindset a little bit. You want to take 3 cocktails? Great, but have somebody that's designated on your boat to drive. We just had another BWI, blew a .20 on Saturday, which is significantly, many times, this is the new one. This is past one you and I just talked a few days ago. So these things are out there, so we need to get the word out even more, and we're trying to reach some downstate audiences that are a little bit trickier to reach up here. But we're trying to get the word out more. The media is picking up on it a little bit, and we're trying to do a little bit better just to be safer on Lake George and other water bodies. Log Bay Day, you've heard about, you're going to hear more about Log Bay Days. Last year, and it will not be happening this year. We're shutting down those bays. I think it's been out there in the media that that's what we're doing. We're not closing down the land-based side, but the town of Fort Ann, God bless them, has said, you know what, we're not going to allow parking anymore on Buttermilk Falls Road or Shelving Rock Road, which has been a huge problem. DEC has designated only so many parking spots out there, and so we think we're going to have this issue gone this year or next. You know, if people want to go out there and have a good time, and if everybody had a responsible, I keep doing that, everybody had a responsible driver, that's great stuff, but that is absolutely not what happens, and we're just simply moving on the day and saying, that's it. We've had overwhelming public support, 2 resolutions, one from Warren County, one from Washington County, many at the town level, and just dozens and dozens of emails to the commission saying, this is the right thing to do. I know the guy that started it, and I won't tell you who it is, but he was a restaurant server in the town of Bolton, that they said, you know what, Monday is a slow day. On this, let's just have a few people to get together. They had 20 people out that day, and it's metastasized into this event where we're having thousands of people on hundreds of boats. And they are not just the locals that want a day off and are acting responsibly. It's much larger. You guys know this story. You're going to hear more about it because we have about a month before this thing would kick in. So that's a very brief update on several topics that are happening on Lake George right now. So I don't want to take any more than time than I was allowed, but I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have. So thanks for having me.
Any questions?
The DEC keeping you abreast of the water sample?
They are. It didn't start that way. When I got away from them a little bit, they looked a little more broadly, so they brought in all the right people. The village, Dave Harrington, can't say enough good about, from the village. Yep, your crew has been out there. Our folks have been out there. Department of Health, they are looking at every possible source. They've jetted the lines, they've cambered the lines. They have looked for any I&I issues. They're going to be smoking some of the different areas. So this comes down from the governor's office. They can't have the fact that one of their premier beaches in New York State shut down for E. coli issues. It looks really bad. It drives business away. We get those calls. You're the Lake George Park. Why do you close the beach? Well, we didn't close the beach. It's a DEC beach, but here's what's going on. So they are desperate to find those sources. So they're hopefully honing in on that. They've eliminated a lot of possibilities, but there's still several to go. I choose not to, I can't speak for DEC on where they are. That's not my purview, but I'm sure they'd be happy to talk to you in more detail about it.
We've actually had a large group meeting, LGA, Lake George Lake Champlain, and water, soil and water conservation, Fund for Lake George, town, village. We also have a NGO. We have so many people from the DEC, it's hard to let into, and they're seriously going after this town. This is new, they've been at it a year, and we've been after them to share information, because we're traveling parallel roads without knowing what everybody's doing. This has been great, all the information together. We're running out of things to check. It is a community. We've done all the easy stuff, and now we're out in the window and trying to bring up things that they've cranked up their testing. They're no longer doing fecal coliform, which is any warm blooded animal. They're doing the E. coli, and it's about 15 times more expensive. But they have the ability with E. coli, if it's an issue, to be able to take that sample and determine exactly where it is. Dogs, cats, and people, and it's frustrating.
They've been given carte blanche budget from the governor's office, as I understand it.
Well,
which is good.
That's on the bill too. Know where it's coming from.
Yeah, they need to figure it out, because it's playing in the papers every single day, and it goes all the way down to New York City. You see these things. So. But DEC is the spokesman on that. That's more than I should have probably said from my perspective.
It's on the video, so don't.
Oh, then I gotta get that. Good.
Anybody else? Okay, thanks, Dave.
All right, thanks for having me.
Yep.
I'll give you a call.
Okay, sounds good.
Wayne?
Well, I'm not going to go into what's been in the newspapers about grant administration in the Lake George Basin. I will say that there has been a number of grant awards from the Department of State, and there's been some issues with those. What I want to talk to the committee about today is the grant award that was awarded to the County of Warren for $482,050, and that was 2013 grant award. It's contract number C1000461. Since it was awarded to the county, I had talked to Department of State about what the issues were, the work program, and since we have administered 16 local waterfront programs in the First Wilderness Program, I was wondering if there was some assistance we could be to the county. This follows a phone conversation that I had with Department of State that they initiated back in January, asking if the planning department, because of our experience with the LWRP program, the Local Waterfront Revitalization Program, whether we would be interested in taking over administration of the Lake George grant. I had no clue where that question came from, but I think I understand now. Having said that, Dave Wick, Walt Lender, and myself met with representatives from Department of State regarding Contract 461. We went through the work program, and basically, it's done. All right, but the county has not received any money. There was a reimbursement request that was submitted, and quite honestly, I looked at it, and the county was going to get shorted $56,000. So I asked the state to pull that, which they have, because there was no matching funds provided for the boat washing stations, the purchase, and in which case the county spent $112,000. They only would have gotten half of that back. Talking with Dave and with Walt, all the match that we need for this grant can be documented without an issue. So I talked with the chairman and inquired whether or not he would be in favor of us making the offer to the state to take over the administration. He gave me an affirmative on that, so we've proceeded with that. The state is in the process of drafting a revised work program that includes administration by the county. Dave is providing a lot of the documentation and Walt Lender for the work program. We went through the contract. Basically everything that was in the contract has been done. So it's not a matter of, it's an unfulfilled contract, it's a matter of paperwork. And so we will undertake that. One of the things that we had to also do with this is that the grant expired at the end of June. They have granted us an extension through the end of December as part of this program rework, and that allows us to charge back to their program for the cost to do all the reimbursement packages and whatever. I'm getting hounded by the state every day to send in my final edits on the contract document or the work program, and I just wanted to have this meeting, and I met with the chairman and with Claudia last week. Was it last week?
It was 2 weeks ago, maybe.
Yeah, whatever. And kind of gave them an hour-long in-depth on this, and they suggested or requested that I come here and just kind of update the committee. We should get a full 100% reimbursement. I don't see that as a problem. And at the end of today or this afternoon, I will finalize the work program. The state will then prepare the final document. It'll go to the county attorney. There'll be a review of that, and I suspect by mid-August to the end of August, we would have a revised contract document, and we would submit a reimbursement package probably by the end of September. They're not a lightweight item to do. But I think we've got everything that it's easy enough to source everything that we need to document the expenses and the work products that are necessary. It's just a matter of putting it all together now. So, I just wanted to kind of give an update to the committee on that. The other point, and this is, again, your decision, we are in the middle of another CFA round, funding round. The county provides, as Dave mentioned, provides money towards staffing the boat washing stations. Our discussions with the state is that we can use that as the 25% match that's required, and the state is indicated they're more than receptive for an application for the county this year if the county does the administration. If you noticed in Dave's slides, he indicated there was a need for $400,000 to $500,000 of additional work on the milfoil. If we made this a multi-year program, the county puts in $100,000 every year, we do a 2-year program, we can apply for up to $600,000. That would, I think, fully fund what is identified at this point in time for milfoil eradication, and we would administer that through our office and work with Dave as you know, doing the deliverables. The county attorney, I think back in May, I think I saw in the document, had already drafted a revised memorandum of understanding with the participating grant recipient participants. So I think that process is in work. So I think we're in pretty good shape. If through the planning department, resolution has been forwarded to the board and actually was at the last board meeting to authorize submission of applications. So we have an authorizing resolution in place. If the committee wants us to pursue that, we will. And so I'm throwing the question out there.
Okay, Ron, you had a question?
I mean, the first one you talked about where we're going to administer that grant, have we expended those dollars already?
Those funds are all expensed by the Park Commission and by the Lake George Association.
Oh, so I mean, the county hasn't...
The county put in $112,000 towards the boat washing stations.
So when that money comes back, where does it go?
Well, $112,000 would go to the county, and then...
I mean, county in general fund?
Well, Mike, I guess we'll...
Well, yeah, because we took it out of the fund balance. So basically, we took it out of our savings, and it has to go back there. Okay. So it leads me to a real quick question, just Wayne, to make sure that when we're redoing the contracts and everything, we get copies of all of that stuff. So
Yes.
we can book it in properly.
Yeah. As soon as we have the spread, give it to Juliana, and she'll load it up in the capital fund appropriately. The county already has a capital fund that's for this, so I mean the administrative mechanism's in place for 461. That's.
How much do we expect to get back on 461? The grant was 482, I think. Do we get? Well, we'll funnel all that money back to us and then distribute it as...
Correct. Yeah, I mean, we expect a 100% reimbursement on that, so the 482,050, talking with Dave, one of the issues that also had not been addressed was the MWBE participation, minority and women-owned business. It's required 30% participation, but because of some of the employment services that were utilized, we're going to be able to meet those. So we have since gone in on the state system where you have to log all that, and we've corrected that deficiency. So that's one other thing that's been taken care of, so we'll not get docked anything as far as our reimbursement regarding that.
Yeah, John?
On the proposed new application for the CFA process, the DOS now allows a certain percentage, 15% up to $50,000 for each grant to be used for grant administration.
Correct.
That's something I tried to initiate, got initiated. Don't get any credit for it.
Well, it used to be 18, but you dropped it to 15.
It used to be 0 for us.
Oh, we've always had administrative dollars.
Yeah, no, it was 0. So that's a 25% matching, so we'll get paid back 75% of our administration costs, but 25% of that can be used for local match.
Correct.
Yep.
Are you looking for a motion?
Well, there's a resolution already in place to submit an application. You know, is it the will of this committee to have us prepare one? Whether that just is a committee resolution?
Yeah, I'm in favor of it.
Yeah.
I think it's a great thing to do.
Yeah, I agree.
Are you making the motion? Yeah?
Sure.
I don't think we need a motion, do we?
I don't know.
No, I think we decided consensus. We're all in agreement.
Okay. Yeah, well,
So Dave will just work on a work program of what we put together, and, yeah, okay.
Good. Anything else?
That's all I have, unless,
No, that's,
okay.
Mike?
What?
Paperwork so we can do that, we're happy. We have not got any.
Right, that was, I went through all this, and I found the resolution and authorized submission. I tried to print it out this morning, but the county's systems are down. I don't know if they still are. But my question has been to both supervisors, who was managing this? Because it's a county award, and no one really seemed to know who was managing it. So that's where I think we're going to step in, or we have stepped in, and just said, you know, it's a county award, the county should be administering it, and you know, the Department of State's very happy to see us involved, because we've, as I said, we've done 14 of these through Department of State. We've never had anything disallowed. You know, they did change their forms a couple years ago, and it's been a nightmare ever since. But I think everybody's finally realizing how all that system works. But I think, you know, if there's a need out there, county's already providing matching funds. To me, it's kind of a make sense. And they clearly stated that the county would be eligible and was encouraged to apply.
Yeah, good, Claudia.
I do have one. I mean, so we've talked about that old county grant, and we're talking about seeking new county grants, grant awards. What about the topic of the Department of State reaching out to you to administer existing grants that are not currently administered by the county?
Okay, my understanding, and Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, but my discussions with John Wimbush, however you pronounce his name at the state, is that there are 2 grant awards, and I believe they're both to the village, that have been awarded, but the contracts have not been executed because of all the issues that are surrounding out there right now. The discussion had been whether or not the county would be willing to administer those programs to move those fundings and work tasks along. You know, I'm going to be honest, we could certainly, I think, provide some assistance. I don't know if it'd be rewritten that the county would actually be the recipient, or whether there'd be an intermunicipal agreement and would be a county administration on behalf of. But we would, if we were to do that, we would definitely have to look at the administrative funding lines in those programs, because it would take another staff person, you know. And quite honestly, if we do, and we will be doing an application with Dave, we would build in additional staff capability in there, because you know, we currently have, as I said in the planning committee meeting, we have 40 separate projects ongoing right now with our current grant programs in the LWRP, let alone some other programs that we have. So we're pretty well tapped out. So, you know, whether there's a desire by the county to offer that, that's not my call.
Do you know any more specifics about the projects that were supposed to be undertaken through that?
Dave, do you have any information on those?
Well, the mayor, before he tracked you down, he sent me his list of 9 grants. Today, we'd love to have you advanced these. That was my old list, that's not really what I do so much anymore, but they're Blueway Trail, their sidewalk improvements for stormwater, it's a gamut of
Right.
things.
I'm not sure it's in the county's best interest to take all of those on, but there's a few that were more related to what I think the county's interests are, that we can sit down with the mayor and say what you're comfortable with doing. But I think he's just, right now, just looking for anybody that'll step up and do this, because Mr. Decker was doing most of those, and Charlene Gunther, his village clerk, is about to quit if she has to do any more administration of any of these grants, and the mayor doesn't want her to leave, hence Wayne.
I've got a staff person that's in the same, she says,
Well,
if we get
let's
any
find
more
out.
funded,
Let's find out what those two specific ones are and what it says already about,
Right.
whether or not the administration would be funded.
Yeah. I have asked the state about that, and they will not release work programs to me, because it's all part of what's going on, and I don't know if it's part of the litigation issues or whatever, but I can't get copies of the work program.
Can we get them from the mayor?
Maybe.
Everything is in a bit of lockdown
Yeah.
right now until they sever contracts with the previous contractor. So there's really nothing that is forthcoming from the Department of State. Now, the reason that Wayne is able to move forward with this is there was nothing written in from that previous contractor in this grant as a permanent slate.
Right.
So this one can move forward. The other municipal ones, until those relations are severed, by directive of the governor's office, they're not allowing the Department of State to do it.
Yeah, John?
I just want to thank Wayne. Wayne's familiar with the problem. I think we're all familiar with the problem. But I want to thank you for stepping up to the plate, keeping some of these initiatives going. It's good for Lake George, and so thank you for doing that.
Do you have anybody else?
Oh, I do.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have another, if we're okay with that. I just want to remind the committee, or bring to the committee's attention, the plastic bag legislation. My thought is to try to revamp that and take it to legislative, Supervisor Stroud.
Do we need a resolution or something?
I don't think so, I just wanted to update the committee, that was my thought.
All right.
Try to address some of the concerns of the other supervisors and the public.
Well, I think we would have been all right if the supervisors were all there. We'd have the 501 or whatever we needed.
Okay.
We could try it again, maybe not so much during the summer when there's such people are out, vacations and stuff.
Do we need to go through legislative again in order to...
I don't know if it needs to, or we can resubmit it. I'll check on that.
Okay. Fine.
Any, Wayne, are you,
I'm all set.
any questions, anybody want to stay till 3 o'clock?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Second.